What's going on, everybody? And in this week's lesson, we are going to talk about some sweep picking. So if you're out there trying to get your sweep picking going and you're having a hard time, perhaps maybe try some of these little tips and tricks and to help get you going, right? Sweep picking is one of those things that sounds really cool on the guitar. It's a really fun trick, but we definitely don't want to overuse it. So unless you really want to be a sweep arpeggio master, don't spend hours upon hours on doing this. You shouldn't have to, all right? They're just little arpeggios and some raking. So here are some tips to help get you going, right? So for me, I find that these little major and minor shapes on the first three strings are the easiest to kind of get going. The other shapes tend to have a big stretch here with the pinky that causes noise and difficulty. And then if you switch it over to major, you kind of have this bar rolling thing, which is actually really hard to do as well. So there's a lot of left hand and right hand muting that goes on to as we get into the bigger sweeps here. But we're going to probably focus on some of more of the higher strings to get the raking going. So now, for those of you who are unaware, sweep picking, you're kind of just raking across your string. And I see a lot of players, it's a heavy downward slant. If I'm going to sit here and go across this big shape, I'm definitely heavily down slanted, right? My pick is like this, and I'm raking across the string. But when I come back up that chord, I'm not, let's say, like turning the doorknob over and getting this big up slant mirror image of that, all right? Especially in the smaller triads, I tend to almost level out a little bit. It's gonna be hard to see on camera, but if we say, let's take this A minor shape, 9 on the G string, 10 on the B string, 8 on the high string, right? Those are our three notes. And I would finger this, first finger on 9, middle finger on 10, first finger on 8. So that first finger is going to do one of those. And then your pinky is going to grab 12, okay? That is a little A minor chord, okay? So now, with the right hand, you're going to want to rake across those strings. And we have to sync our hands up so that rake corresponds with our left hand going through the chord. And my right hand is right there muting just about everything. And now that high upstroke on 12, it's going to be a nice big upstroke. Right, so I'm heavily down slanted and then hitting that with an upstroke. And then after that, it's a pull off back to the first finger, and then you play 10 on the B string. And that, I don't have to turn my hand like I'm turning the doorknob to get the up slant. I don't have to do that. My hand is kind of right. There's no unnecessary up slanting there. That's the best thing. That's one of the best tips for this little thing I can do, right? So you can start it on the G string. Practice that rake. Right? You can do the major shape as well. It's the same thing, except instead of 8, it's 12. It's only one note difference. Right? Cool. So that's with that shape. So now let's kind of expand that. We're not going to get in the big full-blown arpeggios here, but let's get into what we can do with that. All right? So let's go down to not that chord. That chord. Nice D major chord right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to move through the chord scale of D. We're going to play D, E minor, F sharp minor, G, sharp diminished, back to major, right? So that's our little chord scale, and we can take what we just did and go through every one of those chords, right? So D would be in second position major, 2, 3, 2, 5. Then the next two chords, 4, 5, 3, 7. There's your minor shape, 4, 5, 3, 7. Move that up a whole step, 6, 7, 5, 9. Right, so it's right? And then we have two major chords in a row. Seventh position, 7, 8, 7. next one is minor again. 11, 12, 10, B minor, 14. Here's a new shape, the diminished one. 12, 14, 12, 15. And you're back to the beginning, right? So what we can do here, we're gonna do two little things here. First, we're just gonna make sure that we can get that sounding good in both directions, right? Starting on the G string, and then starting on the high string. And you want to move through the whole scale like that. And you can start skipping around, doing chord progressions. That's been done 1,000 times, but that's just a little exercise to kind of help the right hand get going. So now let's try to expand that into slightly larger chord shapes, right? We're gonna do the whole shape. Again, not that chord, this chord, right? So we're gonna come up just like we were, but then finish the chord, and that will help start training our hand to get a slightly more exaggerated up slant, because I feel like as the larger the chords, the more you kind of turn that doorknob and get the up slant. So this will help get that going, right? So we come down. All of that is up. From the pull off, second string, third string, fourth string, fifth string. Like that. And you want to take it slow because you want to make sure it's clean and accurate, right? The last thing you want to do is start doing this as fast as you can until you get it, right? You're gonna have a bad day. I'll show you this shape because it's new. 12, 14, 12, 15, 14, 16. You get this kind of stretchy sound right. We're gonna lead you right there. And there you go. Some nice, easy tips to help get your sweep picking going, right? Really focusing on that right hand, the rake, right? Both directions. You know, I'll interject a little personal anecdote here. When I was young and I couldn't really do any of this, I would spend time just raking, ensuring that I heard 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5, however many it was. They were just accurate. So I would take my left hand out of the equation for a little while to really help get that right hand going. That could help too, right? So if you guys like this and you want to dig into sweep picking a little bit more, we absolutely could. Let me know in the comments. Down in the description below, you can find the links for the tabs. And as always, let me know what you come up with. So until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.